The storm raged across the ancient desert, howling like a wounded beast. The sky, once an endless stretch of gold and blue, was swallowed by churning walls of sand. Amidst the chaos, a shadow soared above the storm, its powerful wings slicing through the wind like blades. Astra, the White Guardian, had seen many storms in his lifetime. Born from the lineage of the Sky Wardens, he was the last of his kind, a great eagle, larger than any ordinary bird, with eyes that glowed like molten silver. His ancestors once guarded the balance between nature and man, but as civilizations fell and the old ways crumbled, Astra found himself alone, watching the world with silent sorrow. Through the veil of sand, Astra's keen eyes caught a faint glow below, a pulsating emerald light. With a swift descent, he landed upon a cluster of jagged rocks. There, cradled within the stone, lay a child. She was impossibly small, wrapped in tattered cloth, her skin kissed by the sun. But what struck Astra was her gaze. Unlike a wailing infant, this one did not cry. Her eyes, deep and unyielding, locked onto his own. Between her tiny fingers, a pendant of ancient design pulsed with an eerie light. Astra hesitated. The sight of the pendant stirred something deep within him, memories not his own, but those of his ancestors. Long ago, the Sky Warden swore an oath to protect the balance, guarding relics infused with the spirit of nature itself. This pendant, glowing with an ancient power, was one such relic. Hesitation turned to certainty. Astra extended his mighty talons and gently lifted the child. The wind howled around them, but within the bird's grasp, the child remained untouched, shielded from the wrath of the storm. Astra took to the sky, carrying the child toward the only place he knew could offer answers, the sacred village at the edge of the forest. As he flew, the storm began to subside, as if acknowledging the presence of the pendant. Far below, hidden beneath layers of time, an ancient force stirred. The arrival of the child was no accident. The balance had been broken, and nature was beginning to choose its guardian. Astra soared through the twilight sky, his powerful wings cutting through the thinning mist of the receding storm. Below him, the desert gave way to rolling hills, and further still, to a valley untouched by time. The sacred village lay cradled within towering trees, their ancient trunks whispering secrets of the past. The villagers, descendants of an age-old lineage, had built their homes from stone and wood, weaving their lives seamlessly with nature. Their crops flourished not through force but harmony, and the beasts of the land roamed freely among them, bound by an unspoken trust. When Astra descended upon the village's main clearing, the people gathered, their faces a mixture of awe and uncertainty. Never before had the White Guardian come so close. But it was not Astra alone that held their gaze, it was the child he carried. Elder Mira stepped forward, her keen eyes scanning the pendant glowing in the child's grasp. A sharp intake of breath. She had seen this before, in visions passed down through generations. The child was no ordinary infant, she bore the mark of the forest god, a sign unseen for centuries. The balance has been disturbed, Mira murmured, her voice trembling. And nature has chosen its answer. As night fell, the village elders gathered in the temple at the heart of the valley. Murals on the walls told stories of ancient times, of a world where humans and nature coexisted, where the guardians of balance ensured harmony among all beings. But those days had faded into legend, and with them, the power of the guardians had waned. The child must be protected, Mira declared. She is the key to restoring the balance, but forces beyond our sight are already moving against her. The air in the temple grew heavy. Outside, in the depths of the sacred forest, unseen eyes watched, waiting. That night, the village trembled. The northern winds carried whispers of fire, and the earth shuddered as distant creatures stirred. Deep in the wilderness, the darkness began to take shape. The child, still too young to understand her fate, slept peacefully under Astra's watchful eye. But her presence alone had sent ripples through the fabric of the world. The battle has not yet begun, Mira warned. But the storm has already been set in motion. The years passed quietly in the sanctuary of the village. Nestled in the cradle of the valley, surrounded by sacred forests and watched over by ancient spirits, Luma grew beneath the protective wings of her newfound home. The villagers had taken her in without hesitation. Though she had arrived as a mystery, she quickly became their daughter. Elder Mira taught her the ways of the old world, how to read the stars, how to feel the breath of the earth beneath bare feet. Kale, though young himself, became a brother of sorts, teaching her to balance a blade and a thought with equal care. And Astra, ever watchful, circled the skies above her, returning each evening to rest beside her as if guarding a piece of fate itself. Though laughter filled her days, there was always something different about Luma, an energy that stirred the wind when she was afraid, a glow that shimmered faintly when she dreamed. The pendant never left her side, and with each passing season, it pulsed stronger. By the time the forest called her to the next part of her journey, Luma was no longer the silent child found in the storm. The night was restless. The people of the village woke to the scent of smoke, thick and acrid, carried by the northern winds. A crimson glow tainted the horizon, and distant roars echoed across the valley. Animals that had once lived in harmony with the village were now erratic, eyes wild with fear. The once calm eagles circling the sky screeched madly, their cries filled with an unnatural rage. The northern forest, once sacred, was burning. Elder Mira stood at the village's center, her face grim as the flames in the distance consumed the sacred woods. The signs were undeniable, the balance was shattering. That night, the people of the village suffered. Their dreams twisted into horrors, visions of desolate lands, of shadowy creatures creeping from the void, of a world lost to darkness. And in every vision, the pendant glowed, pulsing with an eerie light, as if calling out. Scattered across the wastelands are the last remnants of human civilization, survivors clinging to the ruins of a once great world. These factions, known as the Lost Clans, possess ancient knowledge and technology that still function, albeit unpredictably. They view the resurgence of nature as a threat to their existence and believe that reclaiming control over the land is their birthright. Beyond the remnants of the old world, lawless bands of warriors and scavengers roam the land. They worship destruction and chaos, believing the end of humanity is a divine punishment. These groups, known as the Ashborn, hunt those with magical abilities, fearing what they do not understand. The northern lands, now burning, were once home to creatures of great wisdom and power. However, as the balance deteriorated, these beings turned feral, their spirits corrupted by the chaos of the world. Great packs of shadow wolves, storm serpents, and cursed beasts now roam the borders, attacking anything they encounter. Among the shadows of the world are entities that do not belong to nature, nor to man. These beings, known only in whispers, are said to have existed before the rise of humanity. Some seek to restore the world, while others aim to twist it into something unrecognizable. Their true motives remain unknown, but their influence can be felt in every unnatural storm, every sudden shift in fate. Gathering the village, Elder Myra's voice rang clear through the heavy silence. The emergence of the pendant is no coincidence. It is the harbinger of the final reckoning, the moment when nature chooses its champion. Her words sent chills through those who listened. The balance had been broken. And now, the world would decide who was worthy of its restoration, or destruction. The wind howled through the valley as Astra soared above the dense canopy of the ancient forest. On its back, Luma clung tightly to Kale, her tiny hands grasping his robes as they approached their destination. The Forest of Memories was unlike any other place in the world, an ethereal realm where time and space wove together, allowing past spirits to whisper their forgotten wisdom. As they neared the edge of the forest, Luma felt a strange sensation, a pull, as if something deep within her recognized this place. Flashes of unfamiliar images flickered in her mind, a grand city swallowed by sand, a woman's voice whispering a name she could not quite hear, and a symbol, the same one engraved on her pendant. As Astra descended into the dense woodland, the towering trees seemed to shift and whisper, their branches arching as if to welcome them. Kale dismounted first, his boots sinking slightly into the moss-covered ground. He extended a hand to Luma, who hesitated before taking it. The moment her feet touched the earth, a wave of energy rippled through her. "The forest recognizes you," Kale murmured. "It knows who you are." Why do I feel like I've been here before? Luma whispered, staring at the trees, their bark etched with glowing symbols. Each pulse of light matched the rhythm of her pendant. Because your past is here, Astra's voice resonated in her mind. And so is your future. Kale gestured forward, leading Luma deeper into the heart of the forest. The further they walked, the thicker the mist became, until the light of day was nothing more than a faint glow beyond the canopy. Shadows twisted and danced between the trees, but there was no malice in them, only curiosity. Then, the first whisper came. Luma. Her breath caught in her throat. The voice was neither young nor old, neither male nor female. It was a collective murmur, like the wind passing through countless leaves. Who's there? She called out, stepping closer to Kale. A flicker of light sparked in the mist, taking form. A translucent figure, its features blurred as if caught between existence and memory, extended a hand toward her. The spirits, Kale murmured. They are watching. The air in the forest of memories grew thick with anticipation. The moment Luma took another step forward, the translucent figure before her solidified, its form resembling a great feline with ethereal eyes that gleamed like twin moons. Its voice echoed not through sound, but directly into her mind. Welcome, child of the forgotten bloodline. Your journey begins now. Luma swallowed hard, her tiny fingers gripping the pendant that rested against her chest. The weight of its energy pulsed in sync with her heartbeat. Astra stood beside her, wings slightly spread in a protective stance, while Kale merely observed, his expression unreadable. What do you want from me? Luma finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Not what we want. What you must become. Before she could react, the ground beneath her shifted. Vines burst from the earth, snaking towards her with alarming speed. Luma barely had time to leap back before the first one lashed out, missing her face by mere inches. Kale and Astra did not move to intervene. This was her trial, and she had to face it alone. Her mind raced. The spirits of the forest were testing her. But for what? The vines were relentless, twisting and coiling in unpredictable patterns. They struck at her from every angle, their movements both fluid and erratic. Luma's instincts kicked in, she ducked, rolled, and leaped, each motion smoother than the last. But the vines only grew faster. Feel the energy, don't just react to it, Astra's voice resonated in her mind. Luma took a deep breath and shut her eyes for just a fraction of a second, focusing inward. She could sense them. The vines were not merely attacking but responding to her presence. They moved with purpose, drawn to the energy she emitted. Instead of dodging, she stepped forward. The next vine came within reach, and Luma did not evade it. Instead, she reached out her hand. The moment her fingers grazed its surface, the energy within her pulsed outward. The vine stilled, as if acknowledging her will. Then, it withdrew. She opened her eyes. The remaining vines had stopped their assault, coiling back into the earth. You are learning, the feline spirit whispered before fading into the mist. But the trials were far from over. A sudden gust of wind knocked Luma off her feet, sending her tumbling backward. When she scrambled to stand, the scenery had changed. The forest around her was no longer lush and green. Instead, it had become a wasteland of fire and ash. Flames licked at the charred trees, embers dancing like fireflies in the air. A low growl rumbled from the distance, and through the wavering heat, a massive figure emerged. A beast of molten rock and flame towered before her, its glowing eyes locking onto her tiny form. The fire does not obey the weak, it thundered. Can you command it? Or will it consume you? Luma clenched her fists. She could feel the heat suffocating her, pressing against her skin. Fire was destruction, but it was also rebirth. If the vines had responded to her energy, then so would the flames. She closed her eyes again, focusing on the pulse of her pendant. She let the energy flow through her veins, reaching outward, connecting with the inferno. The beast let out a guttural snarl as the flames surrounding it flickered and twisted, no longer raging wild, but bending toward her, seeking her command. She opened her eyes, and with a single motion of her hands, the fire swirled into a controlled vortex. The beast let out a final roar before dispersing into embers. The wasteland vanished, and she was back in the heart of the forest. Kale nodded in approval. You understand now. But the final trial had yet to come. The air turned cold. A mist crept through the trees, curling around Luma's legs. A shadowed figure materialized before her, faceless yet familiar. Who are you? Luma asked, her voice steady despite the chill that clawed at her bones. The figure said nothing. Instead, it raised a hand, and suddenly, Luma's mind was flooded with memories, not her own, but those of a woman with silver hair and piercing green eyes. A woman who carried the same pendant. Mother? Luma whispered. Pain lanced through her chest. She did not remember this woman, and yet, she knew her. The connection was undeniable. The figure finally spoke. You carry her legacy, but do you carry her strength? Tears pricked at Luma's eyes. She did not know the answer. The figure raised its hand again, and the world around her shattered into darkness. A single voice echoed in the void. Prove yourself. Luma's journey into the heart of the forest of memories was not just a physical passage but a test of her very essence. The spirits that resided within the ancient woods had been watching her since she arrived, whispering through the leaves, shifting in the shadows. But now, they had decided it was time for her to prove herself. As Luma stepped deeper into the forest, the mist thickened, swirling around her like living tendrils. Kale and Astra watched from a distance, knowing that this was a challenge she had to face alone. From the fog emerged figures, tall, elongated beings with glowing eyes, their bodies shifting between solid and ethereal. They moved in perfect synchrony, their footsteps silent, their presence heavy with an ancient aura. Luma's breath hitched as they circled her, their movements weaving an intricate pattern around her. Then they attacked. Swift as the wind, the shadowy figures lunged. Luma barely had time to react before one swiped at her, forcing her to duck. Another struck from behind, but as instinct took over, her pendant flared with golden light, and she dodged at the last moment. The light seemed to disturb the creatures, causing them to falter. Luma's heart pounded. This was not just a battle of strength, it was a dance. She had to move with them, anticipate their rhythm. As she closed her eyes and let her instincts guide her, her movements became more fluid. Step, pivot, dodge. Her body wove between the shadows, mirroring their motion but never succumbing to their attacks. The pendant's glow pulsed in time with her heartbeat, growing brighter with every successful evasion. Then, as suddenly as they appeared, the shadows stopped. They bowed their heads and faded into the mist. She had passed the first trial. Exhausted but determined, Luma pressed on. The forest grew darker, and a deep hum resonated through the trees. She reached a clearing where an ancient stone lay covered in glowing symbols. As she touched the stone, a wave of energy surged through her, and the world around her shifted. Suddenly, she was not in the forest anymore. She stood in a grand city, its spires reaching towards the sky, its streets bustling with life. But something was wrong. A shadow loomed over the city, and in the distance, a monstrous figure rose, wings outstretched, eyes burning like molten gold. A voice echoed in her mind. Luma, remember who you are. A flash, an image of a woman with silver hair, her eyes filled with sorrow. Another flash, a man standing before a great door, sealing something away with a final incantation. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the vision ended. Luma gasped, her knees hitting the ground. She had seen something important, something tied to her past, but what did it mean? Barely given time to recover, the forest shifted again. The trees groaned as their roots twisted, forming a spiraling path leading to a sacred glade. Astra and Kale watched silently from afar, knowing this was the final test. In the center of the glade stood a being unlike any other, a massive entity composed of bark and golden light. It was the guardian of the forest, the keeper of its memories and the judge of those who sought its power. You carry the mark, the guardian's voice rumbled, ancient and vast. But are you worthy? The ground trembled, and vines shot toward Luma, wrapping around her arms and legs, pulling her toward the guardian. She struggled, but the more she fought, the tighter the vines became. Then she remembered, the city in her vision, the woman's sorrowful gaze. Remember who you are. Closing her eyes, she let go of fear. She did not resist the vines but embraced them. The pendant around her neck blazed with light, and for the first time, she truly felt it, not just as an artifact, but as a part of her. The vines loosened, then retreated, their energy flowing into her instead of binding her. The guardian nodded, its massive form stepping back. You are ready. Luma collapsed, breathless but victorious. She had passed the trials. But what lay ahead would test her even further. As Astra and Kale rushed to her side, the guardian's voice lingered in the air. The storm is coming. Luma was still gasping for breath after the trials she had endured, but she knew this was only the beginning. The guardian's final words echoed in her mind, the storm is coming. But what storm? And why was she the one destined to face it?